Good evening. You are tuning in to AWANI Tonight with me, Cynthia Ng. The government will hold discussions with Bank Negara to develop effective strategies to address the devaluation of the ringgit. Deputy Finance Minister Datuk Sri Ahmad Maslan says it will be the responsibility of the central bank to find measures that can strengthen the local currency.
He attributed the depreciation of Malaysia's currency to uncertainty over the potential increase in the US debt ceiling, which stands at $31.4 trillion. As of 6 p.m., the local currency was trading at 4.59 against $1, rebounding sharply from the previous day's close of 4.64. The US Treasury Department has cautioned that unless a new debt ceiling is approved, its government may face a shortage of funds to meet its expenses as early as June 1st. On Thursday, US President Joe Biden and top congressional Republican Kevin McCarthy were reportedly nearing a deal to raise the government's ceiling debt for 2 years, while capping spending on everything but military and veterans.
Meanwhile, Bank Negara said at present, external developments are having a more dominant impact on the ringgit. Given this, the ringgit's performance against the US dollar or any particular currency is not a reflection of the state of the economy. In a statement, the central bank added that movements in the ringgit would continue to be market determined, and Bank Negara will continue to manage the risks arising from heightened financial market volatility. To this end, it will ensure sufficient liquidity and orderly functioning of financial markets. Bank Negara said the ringgit's performance should improve as uncertainties from global market developments subside. This, in turn, will better reflect Malaysia's sound economic fundamentals. Malaysia's Anti-Corruption Commission said it is investigating allegations of corruption involving Petronas and an international oil and gas company. In a statement, MACC said Petronas has cooperated fully with the Commission in the investigation involving a project worth 399 million ringgit in Sarawak. MACC, however, did not identify the project or the international oil firm under investigation. The anti-graft agency said it had found several weaknesses in practices, systems and work procedures in its probe. It urged parties with information on the case to come forward to assist in the investigation. This came following the publication of a report by a portal recently that questioned how a Petronas contract could be awarded to an international company that was linked to a bribery scandal. The MACC has not dropped its inquiry into claims that Perikatan Nasional received funds from gambling companies. Instead, Law and Institutional Reforms Minister Datuk Sri Azalina Othman clarified that the MACC has not opened any investigation papers thus far. According to Azalina, the MACC found that the information obtained did not contain enough details to support further probes. However, the anti-graft agency can conduct investigations and open investigation papers as necessary under the MACC Act 2009 or any other applicable law. This is based on the information and evidence obtained from time to time. In December, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim implied that Perikatan's funds for the 15th general election partly came from gaming companies involved with special lottery draws. Sabah is now the third location in the world to have a UNESCO Triple Crown site. This achievement comes after the declaration of Kinabalu National Geopark as the Kinabalu UNESCO Global Geopark. Chief Minister Datuk Sri Hajiji Noor said the decision was made by UNESCO's Executive Board in Paris on May 24th. Sabah joins Jeju Island in South Korea and Shenongjia in China in the distinction of having 3 UNESCO sites. Kinabalu Park's 2 other UNESCO crowns are the World Heritage Site, which was declared in year 2000, and the UNESCO Crocker Range Biosphere Reserve declared in 2014. With Kinabalu National Geopark included in the list, there are now 195 geoparks located in 48 countries around the world. We'll take a short break. Stay tuned for more. Welcome back. 3/4 of Southeast Asian recruiters say they prioritize skills when hiring. This is according to LinkedIn's recent report on Future of Recruiting 2023. We discuss what this tells us about the future of work in Malaysia with LinkedIn Country Manager Rohit Kalsi.
In the recent LinkedIn's Future of Recruiting Southeast Asia report, suggests that 3/4 of the recruiting professionals are prioritizing skills first based hiring. In Southeast Asia, including Malaysia, we are seeing a growth of about 25% since 2019 on recruiters using skills filter on LinkedIn to search for their next employee. And today, more than 50% of the recruiters prefer to use skill to search instead of years of experience. So it has evolved. And on the other hand, when we look at job seekers and Malaysian learners, we have seen that among the more than 7 million who enrolled for the LinkedIn top 20 courses last year, that number has doubled from the year before.
Rohit said companies in Malaysia now look for management, communication and sales, as well as digital skills when it comes to hiring.
So I believe from where this is starting is the digitalization, right? Every company today is digitally or a digitally enabled organization. So tech is not just a nice to have, and it's become critical. And why is that so? Because of the speed at which the transformation has happened, tech has become very critical to companies' continuity, resilience, and innovation to provide new customer experiences and revenue streams. So while we say disruptive and hard skills are high in demand across employers, soft skills are equally critical in today's complex, fast-changing business world. Now, when you look at the kind of skills, what we notice in Malaysia, that because of the changing circumstances, critical thinking, collaboration, ambiguity management and customer centricity has become center. It's taken the center stage. And specifically in Malaysia, data shows that the top 5 in-demand skills include management, leadership, and communication skills.
A man has been arrested for opening the emergency door of an Asiana Airlines flight as it was landing in South Korea. All 194 passengers survived the flight, which landed safely at the Daegu International Airport with its door open. The flight had taken off from Jeju Island on Friday morning. The plane was 2 or 3 minutes from landing when a passenger sitting next to an emergency door opened the door as the aircraft was just about 200 meters above ground. No one was hurt in the incident, but 9 people were transferred to a nearby hospital after suffering breathing issue. Asiana Airlines said police have launched a full investigation into the matter. Authorities in Japan have arrested a man for suspected murder after 4 people were killed in a rare shooting and stabbing incident. Following a 12-hour standoff with police, the 31-year-old suspect was taken into custody at his house near the city of Nakano.
Among the deceased was an elderly woman who suffered a knife attack. Meanwhile, another woman and 2 police officers were taken to hospital but pronounced dead within hours. The suspect, who is reportedly the son of the head of the Nakano City Council, had a license for a hunting rifle. While his motive remains unknown, authorities have deployed 100 officers to investigate the case. Shootings are highly uncommon in Japan, where gun ownership is tightly regulated, and those seeking to own a firearm must undergo a strict vetting process. The country was previously shaken in July last year when former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was fatally shot in broad daylight over his links to the Unification Church.
Tensions escalated in Paris today as police resorted to tear gas to disperse climate protesters who attempted to block the annual general meeting of French oil giant Total Energies. Riot police held back several hundred climate activists and escorted shareholders into the venue. Scuffles broke out between police and protesters several hours before the meeting, where shareholders were preparing to vote on green resolutions calling Total Energies to accelerate fossil fuel cuts. Activists wanted steeper emission cuts by 2030. It also demanded Total Energies include in its targets emissions that are released when the fuels the company sells are burned by customers, such as in planes or cars. But shareholders voted to reject the activist resolution. The protests follows recent demonstrations against oil companies, with activists storming the stage at Shell's shareholder meeting earlier this week and disrupting BP's AGM last month. The Group of Seven, or G7 nations, announced that their officials will be meeting next week to address the challenges posed by artificial intelligence tools. Now, this would be the first conversations among the world's largest economies about a common approach to regulating the use of generative AI programs like ChatGPT.
The G7, which includes the United States, the European Union and Chair Japan, recently agreed to establish an intergovernmental forum called the Hiroshima AI Process. The first working-level meeting will take place on May 30th and will focus on key issues such as intellectual property protection, disinformation, and how the technology should be governed. The EU is moving closer to adopting the world's first major legislation on AI, inspiring other governments to consider what rules should apply to AI tools. During the recent G7 summit in Hiroshima, world leaders also expressed the need for the development and adoption of international technical standards to ensure that AI remains trustworthy and consistent with shared democratic values.
Social media platforms work around the clock to moderate misinformation and harmful content. But content creators and users also have a part to play when it comes to fighting fake news. Madiha Mahmud from Content Forum and Hafizin Tajuddin of TikTok Malaysia discuss ways that they can contribute.
At TikTok, of course, as a platform, we do have our responsibility to make sure that the trust and safety features on our platform is robust. We do that by enforcing our community guidelines. We make sure that the content that are being uploaded on the platform does not violate our community guidelines, does not promote hate speech, misinformation. So that's on our part. But of course, in addition to that, there's also some responsibilities that users must take on, including fact-checking, number one. Number two, duty not to further spread misinformation. And number three, duty not to start a speculation or anything misleading. So it takes, I would say, an entire ecosystem to really address that.
I think I'd like to add to that. I think, you've mentioned everything. Don't put out false information, don't spread it, do the fact-checking. But another thing that I see people not doing is, let's say you've got a piece of news that you think was real and you've blasted it out on your social media and you eventually find out that it's not true. Share the fact that it's not true. I mean, it's okay to be wrong, it's fine, but have that responsibility to say, okay, I tweeted this or I shared this, I've discovered that it's false, so you guys be careful, don't spread it. I think that's something that most people don't do. Yeah. They either keep silent or they delete it, which makes it very easy for misinformation to go viral, but the verification to be silent.
So it's important not only for self-regulation, but to take accountability as well, right, for if you do spread false information.
And on that, Faye, sometimes when we discuss about self-regulation, we tend to focus more on the owner of the content, but users and those who enjoy reading comments also have a role to play. If you can provide context, for example, that this is misinformation, that will prompt other users to just take extra steps to verify whether this is indeed factual or misleading.
Catch the full conversation on It's About Youth at 10:30 p.m. on Astro AWANI.
That wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching. Good night.